and welcome to One United. This is Wali Ziggy, joined in with Paritosh Joshi, and you are listening to One United podcast on YouTube. So today we're going to discuss about Manchester United's 3-0 result against Watford, and it was a big result because the reason why I say it was a big result is because whenever we have a massive win against a top six team, against Chelsea or a Manchester City or anyone else for that matter, we often drop points with the lower teams. But this time, after winning 2-0 to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, we have managed to back it up with another positive result, and it was a 3-0 against Watford. And the scorers were Mr. Masia, Bruno Fernandes. Then it was followed by Anthony Martial, my favorite player, and then it was followed by Robin Van Persie. So these three players scored on the score sheet and it was a comprehensive performance. So Parish, first and foremost, what do you have to say about the performance?
Well, it is one of the shining lights of our lives right now. Manchester United are finally getting better. Bruno Fernandes has been an exceptional player in whatever game time he has had, and I hope to see him combine with someone like McTominay and Fred in the near future, and hopefully we get better and better from here. I hope Marcus Rashford gets back as soon as possible so that he can combine with Bruno because I think they'll complement each other brilliantly. Because Marcus Rashford's pace is perfect for Bruno Fernandes to set up quick fire, quick counter-attacking goals or create magic out of nowhere. Because Anthony Martial, although he's very smart, although he's very cheeky, but Marcus Rashford is just when it comes to pace and running through the defenders, he's just at another level.
Well, yes, Marcus Rashford is one missing link right now at the moment, and I feel that if we get him for some crucial games, such as if we qualify for the Europa League knockouts in the next stages, then I think Rashford will have a really big role to play. And we were talking about Bruno Fernandes. The thing which I like about him right now is that he's so courageous at the moment, and it was just his third game, if I'm not mistaken, in the Premier League.
Yep.
In his third game,
Yep.
he looks like he's been there in the Premier League for years. He looks like he's been there playing for Manchester United for years, and he's been dictating the play from midfield. He's been guiding those players. He's been pointing fingers at them as to telling them where you need to stand, where you need to make the runs, and all that stuff. So it's great to
He's a
see
proper
because
leader. He's a proper leader.
yeah, we've lacked such players who've had an instant impact, and we've lacked such players who were basically been captaincy material. So this guy is pretty much quality, and he's ticking all the boxes in terms of leadership, in terms of
Yep.
quality,
Yep.
etc.
Yep.
etc.
He is. I don't want to compare him too fast, and I don't want to fall down on my face. But he is showing very positive signs right now, and if he's given the captaincy, because I like Maguire. There's no
Yeah.
doubt that Maguire is a good player and he's a good leader. He also tries his best to organize the defense and the midfield, but he can't really have a connection with the attackers because he plays so far in the back line. Bruno Fernandes, the thing with him is that he has pace and he can connect with the defense as well as the forward line because of his position. So
Right.
he's a better leader in the team if you're looking to give captaincy to someone. Also, the fact that Bruno Fernandes has connected really well with all the players as far as it is visible for us fans. So it is looking really nice as a Manchester United fan that we have someone who is producing these kinds of performances. With Bruno Fernandes, I think there's a resemblance of, although it will be too much of a compliment with just a few games under the belt, but Bruno Fernandes is looking as a leader as Andres Iniesta was for Barcelona.
Mm. Right. Not a bad comparison, to be honest. But let's not forget that he
Because
has
they
the
are
potential.
similar, because they are similar in some ways. You can
Right.
you can see the comparisons I'm making.
Well, yes. I have to say that he is a world-class player because he scored 30 plus goals in for Sporting Lisbon last season, and he had plenty of assists as well. And if you're playing the midfield position, and if you score even 20 plus goals, I think that's a lot. But this guy went on to score 30 plus goals, so we've got quite a player. And I think if we had him in the summer, then we would have comfortably been in the top four position at the moment. But we are
Definitely,
still in
definitely,
it.
definitely.
But we're still in it. And the other
Yeah,
thing
we are.
that
I think we are
was
1 point behind. I think 1 point is
three,
three
three,
points
three,
behind. We are
three
41.
points, three
We are
points behind.
41, and the fourth position is 44 right now. If I'm not wrong.
And you never know, we might even qualify if we finish at fifth because of Manchester City
Yeah,
financial fair play issue.
yeah.
So there is a
That is
possibility
one.
there.
That is one aspect. I won't be too hopeful because the thing with these big clubs is that even if there is something that is fishy and there is something that they are being charged with, they are able to have consecutive appeals, have lawyers and stuff. So it gets all too messy, and finally they get what they want because Chelsea also got their transfer ban removed. Champions League is a big thing to miss out on, and Manchester City would be doing anything possible to get rid of the
Right.
2 year transfer, 2 year ban from Champions League. So
Hmm.
I don't think they'll be missing out on the Champions League because it is highly unlikely. If that happens, it will
And,
be a huge deal because it will be a huge setback for all the good work
right.
that they mentioned that they have done in the recent years. But we'll have to wait and see, man. I won't be too hopeful. I'll still feel that it is better to have a fourth spot finish
Right.
than
Right.
to expect Manchester City not play in the Champions League and finish fifth and then qualify. And
Hmm.
although if we finish fourth and Manchester City do get banned, then we'll be the third team to qualify, and then we won't be able to we wouldn't be I think sentenced to the qualifying stages of
Right.
the
Right. Right. I get it.
Champions League. So that is also better for Manchester United. Also, the fact that I have personally talked about this many times on the podcast and to any Manchester United fan that I've talked to is that I'll still take the Europa League and then qualify and finish seventh in the
Right.
league, then qualify through the league, finish fourth, and
Right.
then don't win the Europa League because trophies matter. At the end of the day, nobody
Right.
will remember if you finish fourth and qualify for the Champions League, but Europa League will be a trophy that will be there in the cabinet.
Well, let me tell you one thing that if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer does manage to get into top four and or even win the Europa League, he's not going to go anywhere. That's what I feel. And Woodward is going to stick with him no matter how
And I think
long
that's the
possible.
positive thing.
Yeah, you could.
I think
I
that's
think
the
you.
positive.
Yeah, he has a really good argument for that because things, like I said, are looking much better at the moment. Yes, I think his tactics can become better if he gets the right players in the summer transfer window. For example, Madison
The
or
thing,
Grealish for a Jadon
Wally,
Sancho. Right. Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. Also, I wanted to point out one thing, and I've heard this multiple times with Manchester United fans and multiple Manchester United fans. The Ole Gunnar Solskjaer always gets the stick to not have tactics, to not be able uh, to be clueless about how he needs to play his players and how
Right.
he needs to negotiate many teams. But
Hmm.
if somebody is as clueless as Manchester United fans think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, how is he
Hmm.
able to get the results that he is against the top six teams? It is impossible for a manager to be clueless and a team to get results consecutively against top six sides. So I will still not say that he is clueless about the tactics. It's just that Manchester United are in a really troubled position. And the thing is,
Hmm.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, if you remember any manager after Sir Alex Ferguson, any manager,
Hmm.
the time he came and the time he left, they left the club in a worse position than they came in.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
barring
Right.
LVG because LVG somehow had a better impact. David
Right.
Moyes was terrible. LVG was okayish. So I'll still say कि, uh, uh, every manager had a negative impact. Jose Mourinho came in, he built a team, but when he left, the team was down in the dust. There was no
I think he left
coordination.
a
There
lot of
was no
deadwood.
communicating. He
Yeah.
left a lot of it. Thing with Ole
Yeah.
Gunnar Solskjaer is even if he gets the sack now, like right now, the team is in a completely better and different position than
Right.
he came in. You'll
Right.
anybody and I'm not gonna hear any United fan or anybody, any expert say
Hmm.
otherwise because
No, no,
that
this
is one
I
thing that
agree
you
to
have
this.
to give that you have to give the credit to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
I
So
completely
although
agree to this.
I am a huge Mauricio Pochettino fan, but still I believe that something that happened with Real Madrid, if for example, Zidane left, Zidane had a huge impact just because he knew how Real Madrid functions. He knew the club culture, and that is the same thing with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He knows the club, he knows the people around it, he knows how the club functions. They brought in Lopetegui from Spain, from the Spanish national team, and he blundered throughout his uh, short term that he had with Real Madrid. They had to look back upon Zinedine Zidane for this particular reason. Lopetegui was clueless about how Real Madrid functions. He had no idea. He had no connection with the players, and that is something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is showing, that he has connection with the players. Even when we were talking about that, he was screaming at Lingard that one lose the ball one more time and you're off, and then he substituted him. Then, then also he patted the back of Hazel Lingard
Lingard.
while he was going out towards the bench. So that is
And
one thing that
yeah,
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is good with. He's good with the players. He knows the club culture. The club is in a better place than he came in, and I'd still give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer some more time, at least this window, and we'll look up until the next January how the club is.
I agree with that point that you made, that he's shaping up the squad in a much better way, because even if he does leave, I think it will be much easier for the manager to adapt to this squad rather than any other manager. And another thing which I like about Solskjaer recently is that he's becoming more ruthless, because even if, in this game, if you look
Yes,
at it, against Watford, when there was a Troy Deeney chance, there was an error between Harry Maguire and Matic. They both went for the ball and then
yes,
eventually left it.
yes, yes,
Then
yes.
Luke Shaw heroically came and tackled Troy Deeney. So I heard
Mm.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer from the touchline screaming at them, "Hey, clear the ball quickly!" Something like that. He said something like that. So basically, we're getting more of a vocal Ole Gunnar Solskjaer over here. And then in the post-match conference, he said that when he was asked about Lingard and Pereira not being in the squad, so he said that there are plenty of players in this team who have ample quality, and like if you need a place in the squad, you have to be, you know, uh, you have to have
Performing
a certain quality, or
consecutively, yeah,
you have to be
yeah,
working
yeah.
consecutively, and it's not only for them, but it's also for the other players who are in the team.
Yes,
So
yeah.
this is something which we fans had been complaining about, because Solskjaer was being too positive about something, and if he
Mm.
shows a little bit of shade, I think he will be able to keep the fans happy as well. And
Yes, but
and
I'm sorry to interrupt you right now, but the thing with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, and this is something I liked about him, he has not stated anything personal. There's not been one personal feud that has come out of Manchester United as of now, barring Angel Gomez situation. I'm not sure about the Angel Gomez situation because, and even
are you
if the
forgetting?
Angel
Are
Gomez
you
situation,
forgetting? Are you forgetting Mino Raiola versus Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
so that is not a player. That is that is an
But
agent
Paul
which
Pogba,
has which
people
had
are saying that it's
a,
Paul Pogba's words.
huh?
People are saying that it's Paul Pogba's wordings from Mino Raiola's mouth.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Mini Royala is it's not about Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba, I like Paul Pogba, man. I can't blame Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba is in a difficult position right now, and the thing with Manchester United and Pogba is that both parties need to find a middle ground, because if one party bullies the other, there won't be any conclusion. So,
Mm,
although the favorable situation for both would be that Paul Pogba gets shifted to another club with a huge transfer, but nobody is valuing him enough. The recent reports that we heard were that Real Madrid weren't uh, weren't ready to shell out more than 50 million for Paul Pogba, and that is not the price that I want Paul Pogba to go at.
obviously. Yep.
And the thing with Paul Pogba and Manchester United is that even if he gets back and even if he plays well, he's someone who always gets the stick. And this is something that I find really, really difficult with Manchester United fans, that they had ample amount of hate for Paul Pogba even last season. When
Mm,
the season was ending and he was being slagged off the pitch, he never said a word. He just clapped
mm,
off,
right.
and
Right.
he was showing massive he was showing respect to the fans. He never said anything, and that shows a lot of character. He has a lot of character, and he's a great player, man. You can't deny that he's one of the best in that position. And
Right. He is.
the only thing that has not worked for him is that he has not been able to click, and he has not had enough consecutive game time in the recent past. So if we talk about Paul Pogba, I'd like him to get back to fitness and get back into the team and see how he performs with Bruno. If he feels well, I hope he stays and performs well. But if he's unhappy till the end of the season and he's not able to click, I think transfer would be better. A transfer would be better.
I think Paul Pogba is like and Anthony Martial in midfield because he can do whatever he wants to. He has the potential to be like the best. But basically, if the things are not going his way, I think he just slacks off a little. Though even I'm a big Paul Pogba fan, and we'll talk about him even more. But let's now move to our second goal scorer, Martial, banging in with the goals, 3 goals from the last 3 games, and
Cheeky goal. A
ha-
cheeky goal.
have silent have silenced quite a few critics, especially those who
Yes.
were in the podcast a few days ago. So I'm pretty happy about that. And they even said some of them even said that Danny Welbeck is better than him. So I was like, okay.
Oh my God. I've seen Danny Welbeck play for Manchester United, and I can assure you, I can assure you that Anthony Martial is way better, way better.
So Partha, I would like to ask you this thing that some people are still saying, suggesting that Anthony Marshall is not like the perfect number 9, who will stay within the box. He's someone who will circulate outside the box and then who'll
He's
create
more of a
something out
false
of
nine,
other.
I think. I
Right.
think he's more of a false nine.
Okay.
He's not a proper number nine.
So like if let's say if we get a Musa Dembele tomorrow, and what would
Yep.
your front three be?
If we get a Musa Dembele, if every player is fit with Manchester United, right?
Right.
Uh, it's a tough choice.
Just the front three.
Uh, I'd like
I would.
to have Mason Greenwood. I would like to have Mason Greenwood, but I'd like him to start him from the bench as of now because he's still
Yeah.
yet to develop. I'd
Yeah.
uh, I'd go with Marcus Rashford from the left
Hmm.
and Anthony Martial and Musa Dembele in attacking positions. A striker and a
Hmm.
centre forward mix, something like Berbatov, Ronaldo, and Rooney had.
I think
So
I would
what
play
happens there is,
Martial and Rashford wide and Musa Dembele up front.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. With the exception of Dan James playing a more of an aggressive right mid role, so he can have the freedom that he wants, but he'll be near Bruno Fernandes or Fred or McTominay or Paul Pogba, whichever player. So he'll have assistance, but he'll have freedom on the flank. So I'll go on a left heavy attack and a right heavy midfield.
Hmm. But the thing right now with Dan James is that I think that he deserves a break because he's been playing nearly every game. I do
He's
not
a,
know why.
yeah. Also, that is something that is something I wanted to say about Harry Maguire as well. If we
Yeah.
don't give rest to these two players, I think we'll be in big trouble because they'll get injured, man. Players will get injured because
And
they have been playing insane amount of football for us, and I think they deserve a break.
though I feel that James had one of his finest games against Watford after a really long time. But like I said, he's been
Yes,
having
yes.
he's had a slump in form, and
I
that
think
is
he'll
really
get
due.
exhausted. If he's not
Exactly.
given rest, then he'll get exhausted, and that is not something you want of a young player.
And that is exactly what we're seeing right now because once you're in the game, you do not have that insight within you that you can be able to assess the game from the outside. Because once a person is on the bench, you'll be able to assess it, how things are happening, how I can improve, and all that. Right now, he's featuring in every game, and he has this one mentality that he's going to run down the right wing, and it's basically quite predictable at the moment for the defender from the other team that what he's going to do. So he needs to fix his things up by getting a little bit of rest from the outside, and I think that he has the potential to be a very good impact player because let's say if he comes after the 75th minute and there are some tired legs out there with his pace, he can actually destroy the defense. So
Yes, yes.
Solskjaer can use him as a sub as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Uh, that is one thing that Manchester United are lacking right now. Although this squad is shaping up into a good side, but there are not enough options on the bench and in the reserve team so that if a player gets injured or if a player is tired, you can use other players. And that is
Hmm.
something you want out of good teams. What good teams have is they have a strong bench, they have a strong uh, reserve team so that players can be exchanged and shifted and rested uh, in a good manner. And that is not something Manchester United can afford right now. One thing is that the injury situation is not complementing the players very well, and I think that the backdoor stuff, someone in the doctor's team needs to take responsibility, and there needs to be some changes because we are seeing this consecutively that players are getting injured and not getting back into the side on time.
Hmm. And another, by the way, like you said earlier, credit where it's due. I have to give credit to Luke Shaw as well, who is one of your favorite players,
Definitely.
and he's been
Yes.
playing really well at the left centre back role for the past couple of games. But isn't he a left back? So what do you think? Like, if we get another centre back or another defender, for instance, a centre back, for instance, so
Mhm.
Luke Shaw, will he now be the new left centre back, or will Brendan Williams be the new left back, or like how do we go by things now if this is what he prefers?
That is good for us. I think the situation right now is good for us because we don't have the similar kind of freedom from the right flank. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is heavily pressurized and he is
Hmm.
not having anyone who can substitute him. Diego Dello, although he plays from the right and he can help, but he's more of an aggressive player. He's more of a right mid
Attacker,
player. I don't think he'll be
right?
playing right back for a long time.
Hmm.
With Brandon Williams and Luke Shaw, we have a great pair who can switch duties consecutively and can be used in other situations as well. Although Brandon Williams is more of a left back who runs down the flank and helps in the attack, but Luke Shaw is a perfect example of how a left back should be. I had every amount of faith in him that Luke Shaw will be a great player because he has a strong mentality. The
Right.
injury he had in Champions League, he broke his foot into two parts, and he came back from that. He was slated upon. Jose Mourinho completely bashed him in some interviews, and
Body shamed
he
him.
still got back. He still got back. He still got
Hmm.
back. Look at the mentality of that guy. He had the fight in him to get back, to say, no, you are wrong, and I would be back. And he is back, man. Luke Shaw is one of the finest players that I have seen from the left channel for Manchester United in a recent while. We have had a huge problem with the left channel. Although from the right we had Anthony Marcia and no, I'm sorry, Antonio Valencia and
Right.
other players, but from the left we had consecutive problems. It's finally looking like we are getting over the Neville phase, and now we have someone new to look up to. Luke Shaw is a good player. We have Brendan Williams who is showing quality, and that is one thing that should work in the favor of Manchester United.
Right. So Luke Shaw, and finally we'll talk about Mason Greenwood. But before we talk about Mason Greenwood, I think he might be getting another game when Club Brugge visits Old Trafford
Yes.
on the Old Trafford nights, and that has to be the fixture of the season right now for the time being, because it's 1-1 in the first leg, and Martial's cancelled out that with an equalizer, and it was through a mistake because we played really bad in that game. And what do you expect? It was Pereira and Lingard in midfield, zero creativity, and that is something we expected. But Martial enforced the error, scored the goal, and we now have hope. So, what do you think, Bandosh? Like, what would the lineup be like for Solskjaer? And do you think that he might start either Pereira or Lingard, or would he persist with the same 11? I think McTominay might finally get his first appearance after a really long time and face a bad.
I think McTominay would get back. I think McTominay would get back into the side. Although I don't think he'll be starting the game for him. I think he'll be in the substitutes
I think
bench.
it starts because
Uh,
Matic has been playing for quite a while, and I think McTominay is the perfect candidate to replace him for the time being.
yes, he is, but he's been missing for a long time now, and you can't straight away get back a player in a pressure situation because it is a pressure situation. Manchester United need a result right now, and McTominay. Although I like the player, I still won't go after McTominay to start straight off. I'd still like to somewhat keep him at bay for a while and slowly bring him into the game rather than pressurizing him too much right at the start after getting back from injury. And the midfield, I think right now the midfield should be compromising of the same players: Fred, Bruno Fernandes, and Matic. Matic, I'm not quite sure because Matic has been playing for a long while now. So at the start, you can start off with Matic, and then somewhere near the halftime, you can bring in McTominay.
So I feel Solskjaer wouldn't shuffle much with the pack because I think the game or the
Yes,
team which
because
played
they need a
against
result.
Watford,
They need a result
yeah,
right now.
it's a very important result, irrespective of whether you finish in the top four or not. Because if you win over here, then the confidence and the morale will be high. But if you lose over here, that will
Yes,
transpire in the Premier League as well. And it could
yes,
really seriously damage your hopes of even qualifying for the top four. And let's not forget that Club Brugge is a good side. They drew against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. It was 2-2. So you cannot take them lightly, and you have to be careful. And we all know what happened when Sevilla came to Old Trafford, and it was 0-0. And we all thought that we've got this in the bag, and then a Mourinho masterclass, and we lost. So
Yes.
let's just hope that that doesn't happen.
I think I think we'll win
Uh,
this. I have a feeling that we'll win this because it's first of all it's a home game, and it's it's not that tough of a team. We fielded a very easy side during the away fixture, and I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would be doing the same in this particular fixture because Manchester United need a result right now. And as I said earlier, I would still go for the Europa League, win that, and qualify for the Champions League rather than finishing fourth or third even, and then qualify for the Champions League.
I honestly feel that it's going to be a very it's going to be a cagey affair. It's going to be an edgy match, and it's going to be something like a
Yes.
2-1. And we'll score two goals, and they'll score one goal, and then we'll be hanging in defense and trying to save every opportunity, and that's going to scare the fuck out of us. Because if you remember, it was against Celta Vigo, if I'm not mistaken, in the semi-final, was
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
like we were winning, and then all of a sudden Dinete gets one chance, an open goal, and he misses. If he
yeah.
had scored that, we were out of the Europa League, and we don't even win the tournament that year. So that was the moment when my heart skipped a beat, and I really do not want to visit that phase once again. And yeah, so what we were talking about Mason Greenwood, that he might be leading the attack again. So 11 goals this season, highest number of goals by anyone in Europe from the under 19 age. So, what do you have to say about his progress and how great of a player do we have in our hands?
We have a great player. That is quite evident as of now. If anybody denies the talent of Mason Greenwood, he's just foolish. I don't care if you're a Manchester United fan or not. You have to you have to just compliment the fact that the amount of confidence and faith he has in himself. Because for a young player, and if you have played sports at any level, you know the amount of pressure that a player faces, and at that particular age, I can't even imagine playing at Old Trafford and then scoring as well. You, your feet are bound to shake when you go
And
down
and, and
in the
Paritosh,
tunnel.
and
And
he's not only scoring
he's
tap, and
playing
he's scoring
confidently.
he's scoring bangers, man. It's as if he's been
Yes,
there
yes.
for quite a
He's
while.
not, yes, exactly. And it's not like he's scoring tap-ins and he's a goal poacher who just stands in the 6 yard box and he'll finish off the moves. But he's a major part of the moves in which he scores. So that is one thing that is completely different. And one thing about great players is that they start off young. There are early signs, and Mason Greenwood is showing some early signs. So I hope that he transforms into a great player, and I think he'll have the opportunity to show what he's got against Club Brugge.
And another reason why Ole needs to get the credit over here is because if you remember when David Moyes signed for United, there was a certain young prospect who showed a lot of promise by the name of Adnan Januzaj. And
Yes,
we played him day in, day out. He was there nearly in every game. And the expectation levels went so high, and he performed almost in every game. He was really one of the standouts that season. But as you see, when the new
I still feel, and I have heard Ryan Giggs say this that
right,
Adnan Januzaj not clicking is one of the greatest disappointments that
exactly,
he has had throughout
and
his career
but
because
I know what the
he was
reason.
a
The
great
reason,
prospect. He was a great.
right. But the reason is, Python, the reason is because there was a lot of expectation on his shoulder, but we actually forgot to tell ourselves that he was actually 18 years of age, and we
He was
need to
very young.
handle teenage, we need to handle such teenagers with case. If you actually label them as the savior of a club such as Manchester United, then there's something seriously wrong with you because
Uh,
you're punishing them with all that weight of expectation. So I think it was the expectations which got the better of Adnan Januzaj. And had we handled him like a Mason Greenwood right now, like Solskjaer is not giving him 90 minutes in nearly every game, but he's coming off the bench. He is featuring starting from the first minute in some games. He's not coming on. He's not featuring at all in some games. I think this is something which is needed right now. Give them a sniff of what it is and then take them out. and don't get them
Yes,
too excited.
give them a sniff and don't let them get in way over their head. The thing that uh, the thing that not worked in the favor of Adnan is that he was way over his head because he felt that he was the only player that was having the center of all the attention. If you remember, he was playing with Wayne Rooney, and I still remember he was the only creative player else than Wayne Rooney in that particular team. It was it was a team that was going down the hill, and Adnan Januzaj was one of the only lights that we had. I remember he was passing from one flank to another, and only Wayne Rooney is one player that I have seen complete the kind of passes that he was completing at that point of time. And Adnan Januzaj used to train with Wayne Rooney in the training ground. It was completely clear that he looked up to Wayne Rooney and he had hopes that he would be playing for Manchester United for a long time. The thing that didn't work was when he was loaned off to Borussia Dortmund. Then
Right.
it all started to go down because he used to compare Manchester United with Borussia Dortmund, and you can't. Simply, you can't because Manchester United is a humongous club, man. You can't compare Borussia Dortmund with Manchester United. He was like, Manchester United had this, we had this, we had this. Borussia is not somewhere near, and that was something that worked against him because then he was portrayed in a negative light, and then he stopped training as hard, he stopped performing as better. Slowly and steadily, he declined, and now he's playing for Real Sociedad, I think. Although I still follow him a bit, but he's not the player he could have been.
He had immense amount of potential, and it's just one of the greatest tragedies in Manchester United's current history. Because had he, he could have been one of the mainstays in today's day and age. Because we've been struggling in midfield, and I think he could have made a real major impact. But anyways, let's just stop talking about Januzaj and give our predictions for the big game that is on Friday, 1:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time. So, what do you think? How the match is going to pan out, and what might be the final score line?
I think it will be a close one, and I'd say 2-0. I think 2-0.
So we're gonna keep another clean sheet.
Yeah, I think it will be a clean sheet.
All right. By the way, I think David De Gea is learning a few bits from Sergio Romero because he's kept four back-to-back clean sheets. So that's good to see. Rochester United. But
Uh,
VAR is helping us more right now.
VR is helping us really well because against
I
Chelsea,
love
I
it.
couldn't believe that we got the result that we did.
I think Maguire should have been sent off, but yes, that was a clear offside from Giroud, and that was a clear push. So I think it was spot on, but Maguire should have been sent off.
Yeah,
But you know what happened? Right? It was Maguire who scored. So Frank Lampard is only going to social bitch at the moment. He just keep,
yeah, he
we
hasn't
try
performed
to.
anywhere. He hasn't performed. Man. If he performs, then we can give credit to Frank Lampard. But he hasn't performed anything against Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So yes, right now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has a massive upper hand on him.
Yeah. By the way, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has won twice at Stamford Bridge this season, and he's won twice at Etihad
But
Stadium
twice
this.
that's it. Yes.
Irrespective of what people said, irrespective of what people say about his resume, I think this is something which he will definitely have. Because he said that in the season I defeated City at their home twice, and then I defeated Chelsea at their home twice. So that is something good. And you never know, we might even defeat Tottenham Hotspur at their stadium because we already defeated them at Old Trafford. And the way
I
Mourinho is
still
playing,
feel I still feel that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets too much hate at times because he doesn't deserve this. He's been doing his job decently, man. I still feel, and I've not been this positive for Manchester United in a while. In a while, I've not been
yeah,
this positive. This team is completely showing signs of a good team. I'm not going to say a great team because
right.
you never know, but at least a good team.
I think for the first time we can agree that we can see something building upon, though it might be really late at this moment. But I think it's with the players getting back from injury,
He's
Fernandez
trying.
coming to
He's
the field,
trying. At
right?
least he's trying with the kind of management that Ed Woodward has. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is really pushing. If he got
See, the thing is, the thing
someone
is,
like
the thing
Bruno
is.
Fernandes, there is something.
See, the thing is, if let's say Solskjaer finishes fourth or fifth this season, then the expectations
Yes,
of Solskjaer on himself will be that he needs to finish higher. And what's higher than
yes,
fourth or
definitely.
fifth? You'll have to say challenging for the title. So let's say if he
Yes,
finishes fourth or fifth this season, and if he stays there, and if he gets players, then obviously. His main intention will be to win the title. So,
Yeah,
though I'm not saying that we will, but that is something which will go through his head.
yeah, which will go through his head, and that should be going through his head if you are a Manchester United coach. Manchester United need to fight for the title time and again, and that has not been the case in the recent history. And that is something that we need to get back upon season after season. Manchester United needs to challenge for the title. We are the most successful Premier League team with 13 titles, and we need to reflect that in our game and in our season. We have not been showing it for a while, and it's time that Manchester United get back.
Right. For those, first of all, you need to specify what those 13 titles are, because some of the listeners might say that we have 20. You need to specify it to them.
Premier League titles,
But
Premier League titles, English
yes,
Premier League
Premier League
titles. That's
title.
why I said Premier League titles.
Earlier, it was just the league. Now it's the Premier League.
Yeah.
So add 7 to that, 20. But now it's going to change because Liverpool are going to get their 19th, and I
But
cannot
earlier it was
wait for the day.
first division. Earlier it was first division Premier, first division Championship League or something
Right.
like that. And now
Right.
it is still from the Premier League era. I'm saying about the Premier League era. We are the most successful team with 13
So there is
titles, and that's why
a
we need to get back.
so that's a bit of history from Paritosh, but we'll be signing off with that. And nice session. And hopefully, we'll be winning against Club Brugge and advancing to the round of 16 in Europa League, and bring the trophy home. And
Yes.
yeah, things looking up. Let's just hope that
Uh,
United play as per our expectations and don't disappoint us and ruin our weekend. So yeah, that was it.
yes.
Keep listening to One United. This was Wali Siddiqui and Paritosh Joshi. Ekus Singh and Dinete Thomas will be joining you guys soon. So till then, keep listening to One United.
Bye bye.